Today we're going to look at a list of 15 hidden gems of cities or towns in the U.S. where people might have not heard about. There are great places to live. These are relatively small towns all across the country, coastal towns, mountain towns that you may not have heard of. They're close to maybe larger metropolis areas, but they're hidden gems of places to live. And they're in no particular order. It's not best to worst. But each one of them has its own appeal to buyers. First one we're going to look at is Suches, Georgia. And Suches, Georgia is in the North Georgia mountains. It's maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours from Atlanta, depending on how you drive. It's probably an hour or so from the large population areas of Alpharetta or Roswell. And it's a boony town. It's out there. There's nothing close by. The biggest business in Suches, Georgia is a convenience store. It's a little gas station, convenience store. There's also a kind of resort that opens and closes once in a while where people stay over or get together on weekends that ride motorcycles. There's a lot of mountain roads that go through the mountains that people ride street bikes on. There's also some back roads where they ride dual sport and dirt bikes on the national forest roads. It's a place where you can reach the Appalachian Trail, goes right through Suches, Georgia. It's called the Valley of the Clouds, or the Valley in the Sky, where it's a valley, but it's at a high altitude. There's a little lake, a lot of good trout fishing. There's some mountain biking. There's whitewater rafting. It's a good outdoor town, Suches, Georgia. There's a adjacent town, Dahlonega, Georgia, which is maybe 15-20 minutes, where there's a nice town square, some good restaurants, a little kind of bluegrass type music venue, and they have a lot of parades and things in Dahlonega. But Suches, Georgia is a hidden gem of a town in the North Georgia woods. Next town on the list is Higganum, Connecticut. Higganum, Connecticut is in the southern part of the state. It's not on the shoreline, but it's maybe 10-15 minutes away from the Connecticut shoreline, Long Island Sound. And it's a nice, older, historic New England town. It's got an old, big white church like most of the New England towns have. Very rural, sparsely populated. There's not houses right on top of each other. You're also going to find that it's on the Connecticut River. They have a shad derby every year where they catch shad. There are a couple little nice restaurants, a pizza place. There's a sushi place. There's a German restaurant in town. There's a lot of things to do, but you're also close to the shore in 10-15 minutes. You can get to Middletown in 10 minutes, which is a large town. You can even get to Hartford, the capital of Connecticut, in maybe half an hour. So Higganum, Connecticut, it's a small town, great place to live, good atmosphere for families and also for culture in that whole New England vibe. The next town we're going to go farther south is Cedar Key in the state of Florida. Cedar Key is on the west coast of Florida. It's not in the Florida Keys, even though it says the word key in it. And Cedar Key is kind of at the area where the west coast bends around from the Gulf Coast into the Panhandle. And it's an island, but you can drive onto it. It's got a causeway and a little connector road. It's a small town, has a small little airport. In fact, I think it's the shortest runway airport, at least in the state of Florida, maybe on the East Coast. A lot to do there. There's ocean fishing. There's a great oyster industry. There are a lot of tourist things to do, but not a lot of tourists go there because it's off the beaten path. The climate is great because it's not too far south where it gets boiling hot like it does other places. You get ocean breezes, and you also don't get the bitter cold winters. So check out Cedar Key. There's a lot to do there. It's a good family town. We're going to stay in the state of Florida for our next one on the list, which is Live Oak, Florida. Live Oak, Florida is actually not too far away from Cedar Key. It's maybe an hour or two to the east. It's in central Florida. The interesting thing about Live Oak is it's right where two major highways intersect. You have the Florida Turnpike and I-4 intersect. And those two highways can get you anywhere. And they both go right through Live Oak. Basically, you have the Swanee River in Live Oak. You have a lot of large acreage properties. There's properties that are 5 to 10 acres that are very, very inexpensive. The houses are older and maybe smaller. There's a lot of agriculture there. There's, horses and some cows, and people do livestock type things in Live Oak. You're also going to find that kind of vibe that you would see along the eastern seaboard with the Spanish moss hanging from the trees and a more genteel environment. One of the things you'll find in Live Oak is they have a drive-through liquor store. You drive in, tell them what you want, and you're inside a little garage, and then you can drive out without getting out of the car. Live Oak's an interesting little town, close to Orlando as well, if you need to get to that area. Next, we're going to jump to Gunter, Texas. And while we're recording this video, we saw some news about the area of Gunter that is of interest. But Gunter, Texas is in the North Dallas suburbs. It's maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours from actual Dallas Metro, but most of the development of Dallas has gone north to Plano, Frisco, and Prosper, and you can get there from Gunter in less than an hour, 40 minutes maybe. If you want to get to Prosper, probably even less than half an hour to get to Gunter, Texas. And Gunter is an up-and-coming area. It's very rural. There's large pieces of land. The development hasn't quite crept up to that area yet, although some developers have purchased large tracts of land to build 3, 4, 5,000 unit subdivision. So if you can find a home there that's an older home already built, you might be in the leading edge of development. The Dallas North Tollway, which is a main road that goes from Dallas all the way north into Prosper, is going to continue all the way up through Gunter to the Oklahoma border. And when that happens, you'll get all the normal development. You get strip malls and restaurants and all the other things. So if you want to be ahead of the curve, that's a good thing. Another piece of news that came out just within the last 48 hours is Texas Instruments, the major chip manufacturer, has picked a town nearby to build a $30 billion chip factory. It's going to be the size of like 30 football fields. And as you know, there's a chip shortage, so they're going to put a new chip plant in a town called Sherman, which isn't far from Gunter. So if you want to be near where there's development, maybe some jobs coming, and you want to be ahead of the curve to get some of that appreciation, Gunter, Texas is a nice little town. And right now the development in Texas has reached as far north as like Salina, which is a little bit south, but it's creeping up there, and you can be, in advance of the smart money. We're going to stay in Texas for the next one, but pretty far away. The next town is Port O'Connor. Port O'Connor is on the Texas shoreline. It's on the Gulf of Mexico. It's a little bit west of Houston. You're not going to be near the Houston chaos and craziness. You're not going to be near any big cities, though. It's out by itself. If you drove a little bit to the west, you could probably make South Padre Island in maybe an hour or so. But the Port O'Connor area has its own appeal. You have a great fishing community. There's a lot of docks and boating access there. A lot of the industry there is fishing. There's a little bit of tourism. It's a very small town, not a lot of big stores or big box stores. You can get property pretty cheap compared to other parts of Texas and be near the coast. There's some beaches in Port O'Connor and close by. It's an underrated and very often under the radar type of town. Now we're going to jump a little bit farther north and west to the town of Three Forks, Montana. Look, in Montana, the hot areas are like the whole Bozeman, Gallatin Valley area. And if you want to be close to that, but not where it's going to cost you a fortune, look at Three Forks. It's a little bit farther west. You're not going to get to Bozeman in a short drive. It's going to be an hour plus. It's past, Belgrade, Manhattan, kind of, going towards almost to the Idaho border. In fact, you can get to Idaho pretty quick if you needed to. It's a good way to be in that Montana vibe without having to spend big-time Montana money. You can get to Yellowstone in a couple hours if you needed to. You can get to the Canadian border pretty quickly. It's still in Gallatin County, which is where Bozeman is, but it's a way to be in that area pretty cheap, and it's a up-and-coming town. It's kind of a Zoom town for a lot of people that work remote, and still be able to access some of the things that people like to have in Montana without spending big money. Next town on the list is Joseph, Oregon. Probably never heard of Joseph. There's kind of a twin towns there called Joseph and also Enterprise, Oregon. And they're in the upper right-hand corner of the state, the northeast corner of the state. It's really hard to get there. There's one road that goes into there. It comes from the Columbia River Valley, and once you get past, Portland, and you're in the Columbia River Valley, you still have several hours of driving to get to Joseph and Enterprise. But it's like the Swiss Alps of Oregon. It's got huge mountains, lakes. It gets snow in the winter. It's very nice in the summer. The good thing about Joseph in the northeast corner of Oregon is you're not going to get people coming into there, because the one road that goes in comes in from the west, and you're blocked in once you're there. You can't go east because there's a big canyon with a river in it that you can't cross. There's no roads that go across it. There's really nothing to the south. The roads kind of stop going to the south because there's a mountain range there, the Wallowa Mountains. If you go north, you can get out to the north, but it's all farm roads. It doesn't really go anywhere, right? So if you like being remote, it's a great Zoom town because there's a lot to do there. People go skiing, they go backpacking, they go mountain biking. There's a lot of outdoor activities. The properties are still pretty cheap, and it's a beautiful area. Matter of fact, it may be the most beautiful area of Oregon, maybe other than some of the coast, but there's not much else around. So if you like to be away from civilization, the Joseph Enterprise area is great. Just be prepared that if you need to go anywhere, it's going to be a drive. Next town on the list is Custer, South Dakota. Custer, South Dakota is in the Black Hills, kind of near, where Mount Rushmore is. And there's some bigger towns in that area, but Custer is a little bit more secluded. It's more of a locals area. You're not going to get a lot of tourism there. You're not going to get a lot of the craziness of people that come visit and kind of clog up the streets. The real estate's going to be a little pricier than some of these other cities, but it is a way you can be in that kind of Black Hills, South Dakota area. And South Dakota has some, good economic potential, right? They run their state very well. It's an efficient financial system they have in South Dakota. There's some tax advantages of being there. So if you like the idea of being in the mountains in South Dakota, look at Custer. Next one on the list, we're going to go back east to Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Pawleys Island is in the Grand Strand area, kind of near Myrtle Beach, a little bit farther south. And what you're going to find in Pawleys Island is a more laid-back atmosphere. It's kind of look like Live Oak, Florida, where you have the Spanish moss hanging from the trees. You have a more laid-back southern kind of plantation atmosphere. It's right on the coast, so again, there's good fishing. There's a lot of shrimp boats that go out every day. There's a lot of fishing boats that go out. The seafood restaurants there are just off the charts good. There's a lot of crafty type industries there. It does appeal to tourism from Myrtle Beach, but you're not going to get the vast majority of traffic going through because it's to the south. You also have great golf. There's hundreds and hundreds of top-rated golf courses in the Myrtle Beach area, many of them right in Pawleys Island. So if you like golfing, that's a good thing to do. And you have beaches. There's a couple really good cultural things. There's Brookgreen Gardens and some other cultural things. You can only do that once or twice. Once you live there, you never go to those places. But it does give you an idea of how the culture and the atmosphere is in the area of Pawleys Island. Next town on the list is Parker, Arizona. Parker, Arizona is on the Colorado River. It's basically in the middle of the desert, but because you're on the river, it's very lush. It's great for boating. If you're not into boating, you probably have no use for Parker, Arizona. There are some homes that are on canals where you can have a boat right in your backyard. You walk out, you hop in your boat on your dock, and you're boating. You don't have to put it in the water. You don't need a boat ramp. It's right at your dock in a canal. It's south of Lake Havasu, so if you want to participate in the Lake Havasu, shall we say, entertainment or recreational area, that's to the north. But a lot of people that live in Parker in the area just hang out in the river. It's a great river to use for recreation. Other than that, you're in the desert. You can go to Phoenix in a couple hours, but it's, there's not much in between. It's a nice, small, overlooked city where you're away from the craziness of Lake Havasu, but you can still have that lifestyle of a warm, non-severe winters, right? You're in Nevada. I mean, you're in Arizona. You're not going to be freezing cold in the winter with snow, and you have access to a body of water without having to pay oceanfront property prices. Next town on the list is Slady Fork, West Virginia. West Virginia may not sound appealing. It's a southern state and it's country. It's it's Appalachian area, but Slady Fork is kind of unique where they have tons and tons of biking, mountain biking, road biking, outdoor activities, fishing, kayaking, canoeing. If you're into that lifestyle, this could be a great place because they've taken hundreds, if not thousands, of miles of trails in the mountains and in the woods for mountain biking. They've also done a Rails to Trails program where there used to be railroad tracks that they've turned into gravel or paved bike trails. Even if you don't consider Slady Fork as a place to live, you may not have heard of it for recreation. And if you're on the East Coast and you travel through there, you might want to kind of get off the beaten path and check it out for vacation or for a road trip. Not much of a town. You're not going to find any kind of Costco or big box stores. Even nearby, there's really nothing. But there's, golf and there's outdoor recreation. There's, I think, a little ski area to the east that you can go to. But if you're looking for a small town with small town appeal, good culture, family oriented, Slady Fork is a place that you may not have heard of that might be worth checking out. Next one on the list is Fernley, Nevada. And Fernley, Nevada is in the northern part of the state. It's just outside of the Reno, Sparks area. And what's interesting about Fernley is you can be close to some lakes and some outdoor recreation, still have access to the Reno, Sparks area. There's a lot of development and new jobs coming in there. Amazon is building stuff there. There's a lot of solar manufacturing going on there. Even some of the EV battery companies are relocating to that area. In the future, the combination of solar availability, sun, days of sun, hours of sun in the area, and also being close to population centers is putting a lot of companies targeting that area for development. So if you want to be ahead of the curve, maybe find a place where there'll be jobs coming up and employment opportunities for growth. Fernley, Nevada could be that kind of area. It's very flat. It's technically in the desert, but farther north, so it won't be as hot in the summer as farther south, like Las Vegas. But it's going to be chilly in the winter because there's not going to be an ocean component or effect, and you're not going to have the cloud cover to keep the heat in. So you're going to have a little bit more temperature extreme, but if you like that part of the country, then Fernley is a town where you can still get some good deals and be close to a multitude of things that might be worthwhile. Next on the list is Bellevue, Idaho. This is a little sleeper town. This is south of that whole Sun Valley area where it's, multi-million-dollar homes, a lot of skiing, a lot of outdoor activities, and you're a little bit south of that. And actually the airport that people fly into for Sun Valley is closer to Bellevue. So if you need to travel, you can get to the airport pretty quick. And you're still within, 15, 20 minutes of the ski areas. There's property there that can be obtained relatively inexpensively. And basically you have the millionaire lifestyle of, Sun Valley and Ketchum and all the ski areas that are world famous without having to pay the big money for it. You have the access without the downside of the cost. Without skiing, you still have golf and mountain biking and outdoor hiking and a lot of things that the locals will do that maybe tourists won't do. But it's a sleeper, sneaky little town where a quality of life for a family might be an advantage and still have access to things that people pay millions of dollars for. It's a town that only has a couple thousand people living in it, so it's a nice little small town lifestyle as well. Last on the list, but not least, is Cody, Wyoming. Cody, Wyoming is an interesting town. People think of Wyoming and its mountains and, big, mountain ranges and skiing. And Cody's a little flatter. It's kind of touristy because it's on a main highway. They are known for having a pure tourist rodeo. Every night they have this rodeo that's not a genuine competition rodeo. It's more like a circus where they just have performers that do the same thing every day. There's a huge Western style museum that has Native American paraphernalia. It has a huge gun collection. It's got artwork from the West. It's a beautiful museum. And the town itself is nice. Living in the outskirts of Cody, Wyoming puts you right in the middle of some really great outdoor activities. If you did want to be in the mountains, you just go left and maybe 20, 25 minutes, you're in the mountains, and keep going. You're in Yellowstone National Park, less than an hour, probably 40 minutes, depending upon how you drive. And there's a major road that goes right that direction. You don't have to go that far to be in the mountains, but you're in Yellowstone Park very, very quick, and that's very appealing to people. You can go north and also be in Montana in a short period of time. So Cody, Wyoming is, again, another sleeper little town. It's kind of the foothills area. You're not going to be right in the mountains, but the Shoshone National Forest is nearby. A lot of outdoor activities, good family type of town. Employment might be a little rough unless you're a Zoom work from home person. You might find it getting a job difficult unless you're in the tourist industry or something unique to that area. But it's worth taking a look if you like that part of the country and can be creative about your income. Hopefully this list was interesting. You made it to the end of the video. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about any or all of these towns, and also suggest some towns that might be worthy of consideration in future videos. Thanks for watching.